What if I told you that the 10 layers of clothing you're wearing to stay warm are the exact reason you're not catching any fish? It sounds crazy, right? We spend so much money on silent trolling motors and scent masking sprays, but we completely ignore the biggest source of noise on the water: ourselves. Today, we're not talking about lures, rods, or reels. We're talking about something far more fundamental: how your attempt to beat the cold is making you a clumsy, noisy mess on the bank, scaring away every fish you came to catch. By the end of this video, you'll understand why less is often more, and how to stay warm without sacrificing your stealth. We're going to uncover the hidden connection between your puffy jacket and an empty live well. So, let me ask you this before we even start. Do you think noise on the bank really matters that much? Let me know in the comments. For generations, the advice for cold weather fishing has been simple: bundle up. More layers equals more warmth, and more warmth means you can stay out on the water longer. It's a basic survival instinct that's been drilled into us since we were kids. So we pile on the long johns, the flannel shirt, the thick wool sweater, and top it all off with the biggest, puffiest insulated parka we can find. We look in the mirror, see someone prepared for an Arctic expedition, and think, perfect, now I can focus on fishing. But this is a massive trap. We become so focused on the single goal of not getting cold that we completely forget about the other, more important goal: not scaring the fish. This habit, this more is better mentality, is the reason so many anglers struggle when the temperature drops. They're fighting a battle on two fronts, one against the cold and another invisible battle against their own clumsy, noisy presence. First, let's talk about the Michelin Man effect. You know exactly what I'm talking about. It's that feeling when you've put on so many layers that you can barely bend your elbows or turn your neck. You waddle down to the bank, every step a major effort. You might think this is just a personal comfort issue, a small price to pay for staying warm, but you're wrong. It's a massive fishing problem. Think about your casting motion. A good cast is fluid, it's athletic, it's about precise timing and movement. When your arms are trapped inside a puffy jacket that feels like a straitjacket, that fluidity is gone. Your casts become jerky, awkward heaves. Instead of your lure landing silently on the water exactly where you intended, it crashes down 10 feet short with a splash that tells every fish in the area, "Danger! Clumsy human is here!" It's not just about accuracy, it's about the noise and disturbance you create before your bait even has a chance. This lack of mobility is the first domino to fall in a chain reaction of failure that starts the moment you get dressed. Now let's move on to the sound itself. Many anglers don't realize that their clothing is loud. That swish, swish, swish sound your nylon pants make with every step, that's like a dinner bell for danger to a fish. In the dead quiet of a cold morning, sound travels incredibly well. Your jacket rubbing against itself as you reach for a lure, the loud zzz, zip of a cheap zipper, the rustle of your rain gear, these are all unnatural, alarming sounds in a fish's world. Think of it from their perspective. They live in a world of subtle, natural noises, the gentle lapping of water, the buzz of an insect. Your synthetic symphony of swishing and zipping is the equivalent of a fire alarm going off in their living room. Fish, especially pressured fish in clear water, are incredibly sensitive to these sounds. They may not know what it is, but they know it's not right, and their instinct is to bolt first and ask questions later. The quietest anglers are always the most successful, and your clothing is your first line of defense, or your first major mistake. The problem goes deeper than just the sound traveling through the air. Let's talk about vibration. When you're weighed down by heavy, bulky clothing and stiff, insulated boots, you don't walk gracefully. You stomp. Each step sends a mini shockwave through the ground. On a solid bank, a dock, or even in a small aluminum boat, these vibrations travel directly into the water. A fish's lateral line is a marvel of evolution. It's an organ designed specifically to detect movement and vibration in the water. They can feel you coming from a mile away. You might as well be walking along the bank banging a drum. Picture this: A big bass is sitting near a laydown close to the shore. It's lethargic from the cold but might still eat a well-presented bait. But then it feels a series of rhythmic thumps, thump, thump, thump. To that fish, it's a predator, it's a threat. Its feeding instinct shuts off and its survival instinct kicks in. And just like that, you've ruined your chance before you even made a cast, all because your boots were too heavy and your movements too clumsy. Let's break down the specific fabrics that are costing you fish. The number one enemy of the stealthy angler is cheap, stiff nylon or polyester. These are the materials often used in budget rain gear or outer shells. When they're cold, they get even stiffer and louder. Rub the sleeve of a jacket like that and listen. That harsh, crinkly sound is your worst enemy. On the other hand, the best materials are the quiet ones. Think wool, fleece, or some of the high-end, soft-shell fabrics designed for hunters. These materials absorb sound rather than reflecting it. They have a soft texture that doesn't create that high-frequency rustle when it rubs against itself or a tree branch. You need to start thinking like a deer hunter. Those guys obsess over silent fabrics for a reason. An animal with big ears can hear that cheap nylon jacket from 100 yards away. A fish with a sensitive lateral line can feel and hear you just as easily. Your choice of outer fabric is a critical gear decision, just as important as your choice of line or lure. This lack of mobility creates another huge problem, fumbling with your gear. Cold weather fishing often requires finesse and delicate adjustments. You might need to change a tiny jig, tie a complex loop knot with cold fingers, or carefully unhook a fish. Now try doing that while wearing thick, clumsy gloves that give you the dexterity of a cartoon character. You drop your pliers with a loud clang on the boat floor. You spend 5 minutes fumbling to open a tackle box. You accidentally knock your thermos into the water. Every one of these actions creates a sudden, sharp noise that puts fish on high alert. It's a vicious cycle. You wear thick gloves to keep your hands warm, but the gloves make you clumsy. Your clumsiness creates noise which scares the fish. You get frustrated, which makes you even more careless. The solution isn't to just endure frozen fingers. It's to find a better system, like fingerless wool gloves paired with a hand warmer pocket, or modern neoprene gloves that offer some feel. Your hands are your most important tool, and if your clothing prevents you from using them effectively, it's working against you. So, how do we solve this? The answer isn't to freeze, it's to dress smarter, not just warmer. The foundation of any good cold weather system is the base layer. This is the layer that sits directly against your skin, and its only job is to wick moisture away. This is where so many people get it wrong. They'll wear a cotton t-shirt or old-school cotton thermal underwear. Cotton is the absolute worst choice for a base layer. The second you start to sweat, even a little bit from walking to your spot, that cotton gets damp and stays damp. A wet layer against your skin will suck the heat right out of your body, no matter how many expensive layers you pile on top of it. You end up feeling cold and clammy, which makes you want to add another bulky jacket, making the problem even worse. A proper base layer made of merino wool or a quality synthetic material will pull that sweat away from your skin, keeping you dry and, therefore, warm. It's the most important and most overlooked piece of the puzzle. Next up is the mid-layer, and this is where you get your insulation. After your moisture-wicking base layer, you need something to trap your body heat. This is where materials like fleece, down, or synthetic puff jackets come in. The key here is to think in terms of loft. Loft is just the fluffiness of the material, which creates tiny air pockets. These air pockets are what trap your body heat and keep you warm. A good fleece jacket or a lightweight down vest can provide an incredible amount of warmth for very little bulk or weight. This is the opposite of the old-school approach, which was just to wear a thick, heavy, dense wool sweater. Modern materials are far more efficient. You can get the same or better insulation from a thin, flexible fleece than from a sweater that restricts all your movement. The goal is to choose a mid-layer that gives you maximum warmth with minimum bulk, preserving your freedom of motion for casting and moving around quietly. The final piece of the layering puzzle is the outer shell. This layer has two jobs: block the wind and keep you dry. It doesn't necessarily need to be a heavy, insulated parka. In fact, it's often better if it's not. A thin, uninsulated, but high-quality waterproof and windproof shell is incredibly versatile. It protects your insulating mid-layers from the elements, allowing them to do their job of trapping heat. And this is where fabric choice becomes critical again. You want a shell made from a quiet, soft-faced material. Many companies that make gear for hunting offer fantastic options that are designed for stealth. Avoid those crinkly, noisy rain jackets at all costs. A good shell should be your silent armor against the weather. It should allow you to move freely and quietly, cutting through the wind without sounding like you're walking around in a plastic bag. By separating your insulation from your weather protection, you gain a system that is warmer, lighter, and infinitely quieter. Let's bust the myth that more layers are always better. A proper 3-layer system, base, mid, and shell, is often far warmer and more effective than 6 or 7 poorly chosen layers. When you just pile on random clothes, you create problems. First, you get that extreme bulk we've been talking about, which restricts movement. Second, you can actually compress the insulating layers, squeezing out all those important air pockets. A down jacket that's squished under another tight jacket loses almost all of its insulating power. It's the loft, the trapped air, that keeps you warm, not the material itself. Third, too many layers can make you overheat and sweat, which, as we discussed, is the fastest way to get cold once that moisture is trapped against your skin. The goal is strategic layering. One good piece from each category, a wicking base, a lofty mid-layer, and a quiet shell, will outperform a messy pile of cotton and cheap nylon every single time. Let's zoom in on footwear for a moment, because it's a huge offender. We tend to think that the biggest, heaviest, most insulated boots are the best choice for cold days. While they might keep your toes warm, they turn your feet into noisy, clumsy clubs. Think about walking on gravel, rocks, or even dry leaves in a pair of giant, stiff pack boots. Every step is a crunch, a scrape, a thud. You have almost no feel for the ground beneath you, so you can't step carefully and quietly. You end up walking like a robot, sending vibrations through the bank with every move. A better option is to look for insulated boots that still offer some flexibility and a good sole that allows you to feel the ground. Modern hiking boots with insulation are often a much better choice than traditional, oversized winter boots. Remember, your feet are your direct connection to the fish's environment. What you put on them matters. I once saw a perfect example of this in action. I was fishing a small, clear trout stream in the late fall. The water was low, and the fish were incredibly spooky. I was tucked behind a tree, moving very slowly. Then another angler appeared on the opposite bank. He was dressed like he was about to summit Everest. He had on a massive parka and what looked like moon boots. Every step he took on the rocky bank sent a cascade of small pebbles into the water. The swish-swish of his pants was audible from 50 yards away. He got to a spot, and with a great, heaving motion, he launched a cast that landed with a splash the size of a dinner plate. I literally watched the water in front of him erupt as trout shot off in every direction. He had no idea. He stood there for 10 minutes, completely oblivious, then stomped off to the next hole to do it all over again. He was a walking fish repellent, and it was 100% because of his bulky, noisy clothing. How can you tell if your own gear is too loud? Here's a simple test you can do at home. Put on all the gear you would normally wear on a cold day. Go into the quietest room in your house, like a bedroom or a closet. Now just move around. Do some slow squats. Swing your arms like you're casting. Walk back and forth. And just listen. Is there a constant rustle? Does your jacket collar scrape loudly against your stubble? Do your zippers jingle? Now take it a step further. Record a video of yourself on your phone. The microphone on your phone is surprisingly sensitive and will pick up sounds you might not even notice. When you play it back, you might be shocked at how much noise you're actually making. This little audit of your own gear can be a real eye-opener. It will immediately show you which pieces are your stealthy friends and which ones are your noisy enemies that need to be replaced. There's a mental aspect to this as well. When you're physically restricted by your clothing, it's frustrating. Every simple task becomes a chore. It's hard to stay focused on detecting a subtle bite when you're wrestling with a stiff zipper or you can't feel your fingers. This frustration leads to a lack of patience. You start moving around more, making more noise, and fishing less effectively. You're no longer in a calm, predator-like mindset. You're just a cold, annoyed person who wants to go home. Conversely, when you're wearing a smart, layered system, you feel athletic and capable. You have a full range of motion. You can move deliberately and quietly. You can tie knots and handle fish with ease. You're comfortable, but you're also efficient. This allows your mind to focus completely on the task at hand, finding and catching fish. Your physical comfort and mobility have a direct impact on your mental game. Let's shift our focus to deliberate movement. Even with the quietest clothing in the world, you can still scare fish if you move like a bull in a china shop. The cold has a way of making us rush. We want to get to the spot, get a line in the water, and start fishing, but you have to fight that urge. In the cold, you need to move slower and more deliberately than ever. Think sloth, not cheetah. Before you take a step, look where you're putting your foot. Avoid stepping on dry, crunchy sticks or loose rocks. When you set down your tackle box, don't just drop it. Place it down gently. When you cast, use a smooth, fluid motion, not a violent jerk. Your bulky clothing often forces you into bad habits of jerky movement, so you have to consciously unlearn that. Practice being slow, practice being quiet. Combine this deliberate movement with quiet clothing, and you become a truly stealthy angler. This whole concept applies just as much, if not more, to boat fishing. People think that once they're in a boat, they can be as loud as they want. That's a huge mistake. Every sound you make in a boat is amplified and transmitted directly through the hull into the water. Dropping a pair of pliers on an aluminum boat floor sounds like a gunshot to a fish sitting underneath you. The scrape of a heavy boot, the slam of a storage locker lid, these are all death sentences for your spot. When you're dressed in bulky clothes, you're much more likely to stumble, drop things, and generally be a noisy mess. A streamlined, mobile clothing system allows you to move around the boat with grace and silence. It's the difference between being a ghost on the water and being the guy whose arrival is announced to every fish in the cove. Let's talk about the glove dilemma in more detail, as it's one of the biggest challenges. You need your hands, but they're the first thing to get painfully cold. The solution is rarely a single pair of massive insulated ski gloves. A multi-part system is usually best. Start with a very thin pair of liner gloves, maybe made of silk or merino wool, and these provide a surprising amount of warmth and don't interfere with dexterity. On top of that, you can wear a pair of fingerless wool gloves. This keeps your palms and the back of your hands warm while leaving your fingertips free for tying knots and feeling your line. For the coldest days, you can add a third component, an insulated waterproof mitten or muff that you wear over everything. You can easily slip the mitten off when you need to use your fingers, and your hands stay protected the rest of the time. This system gives you warmth and dexterity, solving the fumbling problem we talked about earlier. Consider the silhouette you present to the fish. In many situations, especially in clear water, fish are very aware of what's happening above the surface. When you're bundled up in a giant puffy jacket, you present a large, unnatural, and bulky profile on the skyline. You look like a predator. You don't blend in with the natural environment of trees and reeds. A more streamlined, layered approach to your clothing allows you to have a smaller, less intimidating profile. This, combined with wearing natural, drab colors that match your surroundings, can make a huge difference. It's another small piece of the stealth puzzle. You need to reduce your noise, reduce your vibration, and also reduce your visual impact. All of these factors are made worse by the traditional approach of just piling on the bulkiest clothes you can find. It's all connected. Let me share a story about when this all clicked for me. I was fishing a tough winter tournament years ago. It was brutally cold. Most guys were out there in giant insulated bibs and parkas, looking miserable and not catching much. I had just started experimenting with a high-end layering system I'd actually bought for hunting. It was a merino wool base layer, a light fleece vest, and a thin, soft-shell jacket. I felt almost underdressed, but I was perfectly warm and could move like it was a fall day. I could make long, accurate casts under docks and feel the most subtle bites. Meanwhile, I watched other guys struggle to cast, fumbling with their gear. I ended up winning that tournament, not because I had a secret lure, but because I was simply a more efficient angler. I wasn't fighting my own clothes. That day proved to me forever that how you dress is a piece of equipment, just as critical as your rod and reel. This principle isn't just for bank fishing for trout. It applies to everything. Are you a bass fisherman in a boat? Your clumsy movements are spooking those lethargic bass sitting deep on a rock pile. Are you an ice fisherman? Every time you stomp around your hole in giant boots, you're sending warning vibrations to the panfish below. Are you a walleye angler trolling in the late fall? The loud rustle of your jacket every time you reach for the tiller might be turning fish away from your baits. The laws of physics don't change based on the species you're targeting. Unnatural noise and vibration are universally recognized as danger in the underwater world. Learning to dress and move quietly is a fundamental skill that will make you a better angler, no matter what or where you fish. It's a universal truth of fishing that is too often ignored. So let's create a final checklist for your cold weather gear. When you're looking at a piece of clothing, ask yourself these questions. First, is the fabric quiet? Do the rub test right there in the store. If it's loud, put it back. Second, does it allow for a full range of motion? Put it on and pretend to cast. Do a deep squat. If it binds up or restricts you, it's no good. Third, is it part of a system? Don't just buy a giant jacket. Think about how it will work with your base and mid layers. Is it light enough to layer effectively without adding excessive bulk? And finally, does it help you or hurt you as a predator? Your goal is to be a silent hunter on the water. Every single piece of gear you wear should contribute to that goal. If it makes you loud, clumsy, or unathletic, it's holding you back from catching more fish. It's that simple. So, the big takeaway is this. The battle against the cold isn't about piling on the thickest, puffiest clothes you can find. It's a strategic game of layering for mobility and stealth. Your warmth should never, ever come at the cost of your effectiveness as an angler. The real turning point, the aha moment, is realizing that the fish feel and hear your clumsy presence long before they ever see your lure. For years, you might have been broadcasting your arrival like a marching band, all because you were just trying to stay warm. This single shift in how you think about dressing for the cold can absolutely transform your winter fishing from frustrating days of zero bites to consistent success. It's not about buying the most expensive gear, but the smartest gear. Thank you so much for watching. If this changed how you look at your winter jacket, do me a favor and hit that like button, and be sure to subscribe for more tips that go against the grain. And now, I really want to hear from you. What's the loudest, most obnoxious piece of fishing clothing you own? Drop it in the comments below. Let's all have a laugh about it.